previously, the way that we saw heroes and villains was very black and white. The good guy is good, the bad guy is bad. And I think it was more so in that Hays Code puritanical era. And things definitely evolved and changed. In my generation, there was a new villain who set off this wild chain reaction. Heath Ledger left a chasm in cinema, and a lot of actors were trying to fill that. He influenced not only comic book stories, but just cinema as a whole. And then we had the Sympathy for the Devil era, which gave the villain a backstory and explained why they are the way they are because of their trauma, because of the things that they've been through, and how they had actually started off as a really good person with amazing intentions. We've recently seen an expansion on that with Wicked.
Citizens of Oz, she is evil.
It plays on our expectations as the audience, especially as most of us only know Elphaba from The Wizard of Oz, and we know her as the Wicked Witch of the West, not even by her name. What they've done is taken her character and actually woven so much depth and feeling and emotion into her experiences. Another rendition of the villain that we saw was the anti-hero. This was especially popular in TV, especially in that mid-2000s, 2010s era with Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and The Walking Dead. People did not want Officer Friendly anymore. They wanted Rick motherfucking Grimes. Pearl combines the sympathy for the devil and the anti-hero and gives us this story of this Dorothy that never made it off of the farm. Pearl starts off as an extremely sympathetic character. If you're also somebody who has dreams of making it big,
one day you'll never see me again.
All you want to do is get out and find something and be appreciated and have the attention and accolades that you've always deserved.
Please, I'm a star!
And you really do feel for Pearl, but you do notice that she's a little bit weird. She is a little bit off. When you make excuses for her because you're like, well, surely she is this way because of her upbringing. At first, the evil seems to come from Pearl's living conditions. Hard labor on the farm, a lover who's left for war, a father she has to take care of, and her mother who's just... she's so mean.
But when you fail, and you will fail.
It seems like Pearl puts everyone before herself, only finding joy in watching movies at the cinema. As time goes on, we start to think this evil comes from Pearl's mother. Ruth is cruel, but incredibly perceptive. She sees Pearl's true colors, taking every measure to contain her on the farm. She needs Pearl for labor around the farm, but I do think she has an attachment to Pearl. I wouldn't call it love. I'd say it's a duty. And I think it's a duty that a lot of immigrants, especially immigrant parents, take upon themselves.
You've always had a roof over your head, food in your belly. Do you not think that came at great sacrifice from your father and I?
If you are a fan of true crime, then you will be able to identify the traits that Pearl has in a lot of serial unalivers. She starts with small animals. We see it happen with that poor duck. It just walked in. It didn't do anything. And it's not even like she murders the duck in order for it to be fed to her family. No, she feeds it to her pet alligator, Theda Bara, which is insane. I think Theda is such a good comparison for Pearl's psyche and her inner world, because she is reptilian and unpredictable. Beneath the surface, you just don't know what's happening behind those glossy eyes until it's too late.
First, he runs off to become a farmer. Now the army. The lengths my brother will go to just to spite his father.
Mitzi is Howard's sister.
Howard is married to Pearl. Howard and Mitzi come from a pretty privileged background. The interesting thing about Howard is he's quite the opposite from Mitzi. I think she's somebody who enjoys her life and her stature and where she's at, whereas Howard, maybe he felt like he had to do all of these things in order to not be reliant on his wealth, but also to individualize himself and identify more with masculinity. Pearl is beautiful, but she isn't the brightest bulb, and you know that you're in for a life of work because she is so reactive and combustive. She really offers up this challenge for Howard. Once he comes back, he's seen some shit. If you think about people who live a life of crime, they go in and out of prison and they actually feel safer in prison. He must have just gotten used to that harder life, and I think it was definitely something that he was chasing. Their dynamic is one of commander and soldier. She likes the control that she has over Howard, and I think Howard, having that sort of soldier mentality, also needs that. He's somebody who needs direction in life, and if that direction leads to chaos, blood and murder, all the better.
No sense in making a mess now. If nobody shows up by tomorrow, we'll take the body and we'll dump her in the pond with the others.
Mitzi is blonde, beautiful, all-American.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think she has ill intentions, but she's just not very good at reading the room.
Is that our pig?
When Pearl looks at her, she sees a life that she feels like she deserves. And so when Mitzi approaches Pearl with this amazing opportunity, it feels like a betrayal. It feels like she was set up. And I think that's where that anger comes in. From Pearl's perspective, Mitzi has manipulated her. Mitzi fit that brief of the blonde, younger, all-American girl. Now, I don't think Mitzi actually got it, so she's just saying whatever in order to survive. But as I said, she's the type of person that can't really read a room until it's too late, and that's what gets her murdered. She's not really equipped with those de-escalation skills beyond the surface level because she's never had to be around a situation like that. Whereas Howard is the complete opposite. He is able to de-escalate Pearl, not always, but for the most part. He tries to keep everybody away from her when we see him in X. He obviously served in the military. He also gave up his life of privilege in order to take a massive step down to work as a farmhand. In many ways, he's seen as heroic and having these really good qualities that we like to see in people. I think he triggers a lot of that fear of abandonment because when Howard leaves, her whole world ends. Like, he was her ticket out of this place. And that's when the projectionist comes in.
He's Pearl's projections of what she envisions and desires and wants. She's projecting onto the projectionist her desires and her dreams and her beliefs about herself.
In Pearl's world, he is being really genuine, really honest. He cares about her, he thinks very highly of her, and he's going to take her away. And the reason why she's like that is because she's isolated on a farm. Her parents obviously haven't told her about courting and what to look out for in a relationship. And also she just isn't treated very nicely on that farm, so when somebody comes around and compliments her, it's just, this is actually quite a common thing in people, especially if you grow up in a home that's full of like neglect or there's a lot of negativity and not much affection. The projectionist wants to leave and she figures out that he's lying, and that must bring about the same feelings that she had when Howard left. I'd love a short story on why he left to go to the war and also what happened to Pearl's dad, because I think that those two things are linked. Life doesn't revolve around that one thing that didn't work out. Instead of trying to audition for something else, instead of trying to move forward, she just stayed on that farm. Decades later, when Maxine and her crew arrive, she's looking at Maxine and she's seeing a life that she could have had. Pearl is definitely not a character that you want to be like. And if you possess some of those traits, impatience, a lack of resilience, not being able to take rejection well, you will struggle in life. It's about being able to emotionally regulate yourself and to not take everything to heart, which is a really hard practice, but it will serve you well. And so this is really a message to myself as well as anybody else that resonates. I just wanted to thank you guys if you made it to the end of the video, and let me know what you'd like me to talk about next.
Sweet home. That's where the real war is. About the only peace that I ever see.
I don't give a fuck, shut the fuck up. Get on your knees and grease my feet.